He told her he was ready to be a father. A week later, he vanished. No goodbye, no explanation, no forwarding address. Just an empty apartment and a disconnected phone number. It took her 3 years to find him. And when she did, what he said was worse than the silence. Stay until the end, because what his family did 21 years later might be the cruelest part of all. If you want more stories like this, make sure to like this video and subscribe to my channel. You won't want to miss the next heartbreak that reveals a shocking truth. Accounting and operations, different floors, different worlds. But they started finding excuses to cross paths. Coffee runs that happened to overlap, lunch breaks that stretched a little longer than they should. It wasn't a whirlwind, it was slow, comfortable, the kind of relationship that builds without announcements. Nathan had a way of making everything feel simple. He remembered small things, that she didn't like cilantro, that her sister's birthday was in March, that she always checked her rearview mirror 3 times before pulling out of a parking spot. He noticed her. That felt rare. After 18 months, they weren't officially living together, but he had a drawer at her place, a toothbrush, a favorite mug. She was 34. Her tubes had been tied 7 years earlier, a decision she had made with certainty. Children weren't part of the plan. Then the test came back positive. Her doctor called it rare, but not impossible, a failure rate no one talks about. Michelle sat in the parking lot of the clinic for 40 minutes, staring at nothing. When she told him that night, his face went through something she couldn't read. Then he smiled. "Okay," he said, "we'll figure it out." She believed him. She didn't realize that figuring it out meant something different to him. The shift was subtle at first, a canceled dinner, shorter texts. He stopped asking about her doctor's appointments. When she reached for his hand one night, he pulled away like he'd been burned, then apologized and said he was just tired. She asked him once, quietly, if he was having second thoughts. "No," he said. "I'm just processing. It's a lot." She wanted to believe him, so she did. Looking back, she would realize she had been auditioning for his approval, shrinking herself so he wouldn't feel overwhelmed. It didn't matter. On a Thursday morning, Michelle walked into the office and saw Nathan's desk had been cleared. No computer, no personal items, just a blank surface and an empty chair. Her chest tightened. She asked his manager what happened. He resigned, gave 2 weeks but decided to leave early. Didn't he tell you? He hadn't. Michelle drove to his apartment after work. Her hands were steady on the wheel, but her heartbeat wasn't. She knocked. No answer. A neighbor came out into the hallway, an older woman with a laundry basket. "You looking for the guy in 4B? Michelle nodded. "He moved out 3 days ago, middle of the night from what I saw. Loaded a truck and left." Michelle stood there for a long moment. The hallway smelled like fabric softener and carpet cleaner. She could hear a television playing somewhere down the hall. Everything around her was ordinary, and her entire life was collapsing. She called his number, disconnected. She called again, like it might change. It didn't. That night, she didn't sleep. She kept her phone on the pillow next to her, waiting for it to ring, waiting for a text that said it was all a misunderstanding. The next morning, she checked his email, an old password he'd never changed. Nothing. No activity. She went to work anyway, sat at her desk, watched the door every time someone walked through, half expecting him to appear with an explanation, an apology, anything. He never came. By the 3rd day, the waiting stopped. Not because the pain was gone, but because she couldn't afford to fall apart. She was 6 weeks pregnant, alone, and the father of her child had erased himself completely. She made a list. Prenatal vitamins, doctor's appointments, budgeting without a second income. Survival mode. For 3 years, Nathan stayed gone. Michelle raised Marcus alone. First steps, first words, first everything, all without him. And then one day she decided she was done letting him disappear. Not because she wanted him back, she didn't, but because her son deserved child support, because Nathan didn't get to vanish without consequence. She hired a service that tracked him to another state, a new job, a new address, a new life that didn't include any mention of a son. She didn't call ahead, she just showed up. The house was modest, a small lawn, a tricycle on the porch. Not Marcus's tricycle, someone else's child. Nathan opened the door and his face went pale. "Michelle!" She didn't yell, she didn't cry. She was past that. "You have a son. His name is Marcus. He's 3 years old, and you're going to help provide for him whether you want to or not." Nathan leaned against the doorframe. He didn't invite her in. Behind him, she could see a woman's jacket hanging by the door, a family photo on the wall. He had built a whole new life in the time it took her to figure out how to raise a child alone. "I told my family it was a one-night stand," he said quietly. "They don't know." Michelle stared at him. "We were together for 2 years." He didn't answer. He just looked at the ground. "I'll send money, but I can't be in his life. It's too complicated." She almost laughed. "Too complicated." "It wasn't complicated when you said you were excited. It wasn't complicated when you talked about baby names." He had nothing to say to that. She turned and walked back to her car. She didn't look back. The state garnished his wages. He saw Marcus twice, once at 5, once at 12. Both visits were awkward and short. Marcus stopped asking about him after the second one. Marcus is 21 now. He graduated with honors, he works full-time, and calls his mother every Sunday. He has his father's eyes and nothing else from him. Recently, Nathan's father passed away. The grandfather Marcus never knew. The obituary listed Nathan's siblings, their children, their spouses, a complete family tree. Marcus's name wasn't there. He was erased from the record, just like his mother had been erased from Nathan's life 21 years earlier. Michelle didn't tell Marcus about the obituary. He found it himself. He read it once, closed the laptop, and said nothing. Later that night, he hugged her in the kitchen. "Thank you," he said, "for staying." That was all. It was enough. Nathan never hit her, never yelled, never cheated. He just left. And sometimes that kind of cruelty is the hardest to explain. Quiet, bloodless, and impossible to argue with. But Marcus didn't inherit that. He stayed, he showed up, he became the man his father never was. Some legacies are built by presence, others are built by absence. Marcus built his from scratch. The man who vanished left behind more than he realized. He left behind a son who learned what loyalty looks like by never seeing it from him. Love, lies, and lessons, where every heartbreak reveals a truth.